Hey, hey, what's going on? Let me open this up and make sure this is working. It's been so long since I've used all this gear. The camera was acting all wonky there. Let's see what we got here. Hey, look, there's my face. Whoa.
We got here.
There I am. Looks good. How's it going, people? Close this. Sorry. All right. Hi. How is everybody? It's been a long time. Yeah, I mean it's been a long time, and honestly, I don't know how much longer it's going to be. I guess we'll the big news of everywhere is this COPPA or whatever it is there that there's advertising attached to videos, whether you've monetized or not. I think there's ads along the side. There's probably also ads that pop up in the videos themselves. I don't really know. I haven't looked on another computer to look back at any of my videos to see if there's kind of banner ads. So anything that could be associated with kids, like comic books, for example, is kind of runs the risk of, from what I understand, litigation against you, the creator. So it's not just up to the YouTube or the platform itself. It's also the creator's responsibility to, I don't know, take care of some of that stuff. I can see why. I think I should look into it. I'm going to spend a bit of time this afternoon maybe looking into it a little more. I think that on your channel for YouTube, you can set it as kind of adults only, where it won't appear. Or maybe it's just private. Maybe it's not adults only. Maybe it's just private. So then it only goes to your subscribers, which is fine. I mean, I generally have, again, how much of this impacts a guy like me? I don't know how much. I've kind of managed to stay under the radar for a lot of the very strictly adult content that I have on this channel. Even when it comes to, type of comics that I've showcased on this channel, or just my foul language to begin with, I don't think there's much in the way of kids stumbling across my videos, but what do I know, right? So I think I might look into some of that. There's always the downside then. Part of why I did this channel was to kind of give exposure to some of the kind of creators, publishers, artists, writers, companies, whether it's with comics, whether it's with movies, whether it's with music, give some of them a chance to get highlighted where maybe they're not getting as much coverage. Thinking, for example, of some of the gaming publishers like the Cave Evil clan there, Mushroom Eaters, Cave Evil, all of those kind of, that small company, Emperors of Eternal Evil, just kind of helping to give exposure. And then there's something that's on YouTube kind of documenting that these things existed. Some of these indie publishers, although now with some of these other channels that are popping up, specifically the kayfabe guys, that whole world has really exploded as far as 80s independent publishing. I like that idea. As I've said before, I like that idea of someone doing a search on something obscure and my big fat head pops up on their screen and they get to see the comic or hear a little bit about whatever it is that they were searching for. So this, if I do set myself to private, only the subscribers would be able to see the videos. Again, that's fine because it's mostly kind of a small group of you all that have been watching these videos, which I do appreciate. But there's also that potential where I don't pick up those extra viewers, I don't know exactly how that would work. And I guess, part of all of this kind of COPPA talk that's coming up, a lot of it is just speculation at this point. I mean, based on the information that's currently out there, for sure. But the reality of it and what actually ends up happening when everything comes into effect. I'm looking for water. I thought I had some water here. When all of that comes into effect, we'll see how much actual creators are getting kind of nailed with this. Me with my 740 subscribers versus someone with, you know, tens of thousands of subscribers. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how that kind of stuff would pan out, even if it's ultimately worth the time and money to then all of a sudden start nailing a bunch of people, because I imagine that's going to be a thing as well. And I do understand why all of this is getting looked at. We need to get some sort of handle on kind of content online and holding people responsible for what they say. I don't take back anything that I've said on this channel. I don't feel I've been inflammatory. I don't feel like my perception is that I don't think there's much on my channel that would be highly offensive. Is there some things that might offend people? For sure there is. Do I take any of that back? No, I absolutely don't. All that aside, we'll see how it all pans out. Maybe it's time to move on to a new platform, something else. I know that Spiro had long since, he looked into another site a while back, months and months ago, maybe like 6-8 months ago. And I don't remember what the name of the site was, but another, you know, not a Twitch, but something else where you could upload your own content. And I know one of the guys that I watch who kind of is in the movie kind of realm. I also follow him on Instagram. He had a lot of adult content where he was showcasing some kind of vintage porn from his side of the world. And he eventually, wearing makeup and doing reviews on a skateboard gets the big views. Really, hey? Well, there you go. Laser Duchamp, how are you? And he had gone to Pornhub or something like that. Even though he wasn't showing explicit photos, he was talking about this era of pornography. So he felt, let's just go right over there and just upload things there just to avoid any sort of nonsense that might come of it. Because anybody who's looking on that channel has a clear expectation of what they're going to see. Yeah, and somehow, like I've said, I've managed to kind of skirt under the radar some of the stuff that I've talked about and shown off on this channel. Speaking of showing off, I went to Mulvey Flea Market. It's been a while since I've been there. Paulo Costa, how the heck are you? It's been a while since I've been there. Greg Harder, I've spoken about him before. If you look up the Anti-Gravity Room, I'll try to remember to leave a link. There's a little bit of it was a show, Canada side, but I guess kind of made its way to the States too, that focused on kind of comics and collectibles. Yeah, it's all the bounce from the white snow outside that's giving all this light. Decided to bring everything upstairs today. There was an episode where they were talking about collectors, and they did a little spotlight on Comic World, and they interviewed Greg Harder on that, a very young Greg Harder. So I'll try to remember to leave that link. Check it out. He's been going through some independent boxes. He's the guy. Mass Panther, how are you? Holy smokes, everybody's here. That's great. He's been going through some boxes, and he's hitting the independent boxes now. So I'm on his mailing list. He's in the past supplied me with a bunch of Comics Journal. He's got an updated list of mine for Comics Journal, and every time he comes across them, he puts some aside for me, which is fantastic. So he's had this small stack for a little while, and I finally made my way down there today to pick it up. I was going to start off, though. Did everybody pick up their Fantastic Four Grand Design? I grabbed two covers, the Tom Scioli corner box cover, and then the Ed Piskor cover as well. A look at the interiors. I have not dug into this one yet. Scioli it's dense. All those boxes, all those panels, beautiful artwork. I've always loved his artwork ever since I first discovered him back in kind of Godland days. But then where his stuff really opened up for me was the G.I. Joe versus Transformers. And then he was doing backup stories in some of the Young Animals titles as well. And that's where the density started to show itself as far as how he was putting together a page. So that's something I'm hoping to read right away. The one I wanted to start with, though, one that I'm kind of the most excited about, the complete Bo Jeffries saga by Alan Moore and Steve Parkhouse. Alan Moore has been kind of, you know, doing his Alan Moore thing as he has. His daughter did a big Twitter thread in regard to some talk that he had. He's trying to get people to vote. And then, of course, everybody comes out of the woodwork bashing him for bashing kind of mainstream superhero comics, which he always has done. And if you read what he says, I don't totally disagree with him. Is it going to make me stop enjoying what I'm going to enjoy? Of course it won't. So here, just to kind of, so this Bo Jeffries saga, I didn't realize at how many places parts of it had been published. I read a couple of the backup stories that were with the Dalgota series. There was one with the first Dalgota run, and then the second Dalgota run, which was Flesh and Bones. Is that what it was called? Let me see here. Yes, Flesh and Bones, issues 1 to 4. They had backup stories of the Bo Jeffries. So this was a really great find on his list. I love Steve Parkhouse. I love his art quite a bit. This is right at the top of the stack. As soon as this video is over, I'm going to be relaxing for a bit and digging into this one. I believe it was black and white in the Dalgota run. The backups were black and white, so it'll also be nice to see some of the stuff in color. And apparently this is everything. So everything that was published in some of these other places like A1, Warrior, as I said, Dalgota. And then there's some shorts that were newly created for this collection. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 short stories that were created just for this collection. And this is, if I didn't say it already, Tundra put this one out. So yeah, that's a really exciting one. Didn't buy Godland all the way through. There was a time when I had to cut back and I sacrificed Godland. Sounds about the same with me. I had been picking it up on a monthly basis and reading it, and then it just got to a point where, as it always happens, things have to get cut. That was one of them that got cut. I ended up kind of in one of my cullings. That was one series that kind of went out the door. Maybe one day there would be an omnibus and I can buy that. An omnibus would be great. Everybody's acting too jumpy around the corporate superheroes, especially after the Scorsese rant, which he was right about. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, right? Again, it's always this idea of someone criticizing something that you hold really close. You know, who gives a shit what other people think about it to some degree, unless they're being completely just brutal and abusive about it. But I mean, if they don't like it and they're expressing why they don't like it and how it speaks to what they see as a bigger issue for things like film and art in general, so be it. That's fine. Doesn't mean you have to stop reading it. I am fully comfortable with being I don't know what. I'm trying to think of the right words. I don't know. I'm fine being in this world. I'm getting distracted by phones as well. I'm fine being in this kind of headspace when it comes to what I enjoy. I enjoy reading comics. I enjoy some of the superhero stuff. I love the art. I love everything about it, you know. And if someone wants to look down on you because of it, oh well, that's totally fine. You can enjoy formulaic, but please recognize when it is the case. Yeah, totally agree, Paulo. Absolutely. Continuing on, the other great thing about having access to a guy like Greg and this enormous collection that he has and is kind of selling, it gives me a good chance to put a dent into more Eclipse titles. So I got a stack of Airboy from him. I can't believe when I was putting all this into my CLZ app, I didn't realize that it went up to 50 issues. A couple of highlights in here. They started off as bi-weekly. I know I've spoken about this before, 50 cents each, and they're probably half the thickness of a regular comic. Here's the first Airboy series with the Heap in it. Is this a Tim Truman? Writer Chuck Dixon. No, it's not. Penciler Stan Woke and inker Willie Blyberg. Some real great stuff in here, though. I've got a good chunk of the early issues in a row now, so I can start digging into that, which will be fantastic. There we go. Have a look at that, too. Very, very cool. Show you a couple of other issues here. Valkyrie on the cover of this one. And then one that jumped out at me, and I was disappointed that he didn't do the interiors as well. Our man Rick Veitch doing a killer cover there. Really fantastic stuff. I'm assuming he does the colors as well too, and it looks like it's airbrushed. Grand Design is becoming a great series. Saturday night over here, a few beers in. Airboy is cool. Fighters Classics, good series as well too. Yes, and I have one issue. He had 3 of them for me. Air Fighters Classics. This one went up to, what was it, 6, I think? Maybe you know Mr. Duchamp. So I have number 1, number 2, and then I have number 3 in a box already, and then number 4. So that's pretty good. And this one just reprints the old Airboy title in black and white there. So that's nice. And that kind of square bound format is always a hit. A couple of, and then finally in the Airboy world, Airboy Meets the Prowler. This one probably has Tim Truman art in it. The Prowler, a Tim Truman character. Story and script by Timothy Truman and Chuck Dixon. Story illustrator. Oh, no. Hey, John K. Snyder III. So there you go. Oh, it's a Four Winds. So edited by Cat Ironwood, and then a Four Winds publication. So Four Winds, Timothy Truman's little offshoot publishing company that Eclipse helped distribute back in the day. So there's a look in that one. Jackio, how's it going, man? At this point, isn't all Scorsese films formulaic? I'm a fan and definitely think they are. Gangsters or superheroes, both are formulaic a genre. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's also part of it too, right? I always get a kick out of people who say, who kind of criticize genre films, you know, when they mean a very specific genre. But I mean, I would argue that every film is a genre film, is going to be attached to some sort of genre. On the Eclipse note, a couple of issues of the adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters. This one is They Massacre the Japanese Invasion. And then just issue 9 of the volume 1 there. Is this one? I'd flip through one of these here. No, not that one. Let's have a quick look. Boy, it's been a minute since I've done this. There you go. Spend Christmas with Adolescent Radioactive Big Butt Ham Hocks as the backup story there. So, you know, really great stuff. I think I've tried to read a couple of issues of this. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't necessarily my thing. Some of this Eclipse stuff that I'm picking up, it's purely because I'm a completist, and I just need to have everything that Eclipse has done. He had a couple of kind of packs that for dirt cheap, but you couldn't separate them. This is a good example. Bullet Crow #1 and #2. I already have issue #1. but again, dirt cheap. Another one that's the same. He had a bundle. This was issue number 1 and 2 out of the 3-issue miniseries, Captain Quick and a Foozle. So now I have, this is my 3rd copy of issue number 1 because I bought it mistakenly from a 50-cent bin recently. And then this is number 2, so that completes that run for me as well. The interiors of this don't look horrible. Nice balance of cartoony and kind of a nice stylized look to it. And as usual, some of that kind of little more European look that really appeals to me. I don't know why I picked this one out. I don't think I have any more issues from this series. This is Good Girls from Fantagraphics, number 5. I don't know if I have. See, here we go. There you go, Kappa, right there. Comics are for kids. So are boobies. I don't know why this one was on the list to pick up. Nothing stands out to me about it. It's quite possible that I have an issue or 2 of this, and it was just to complete the run. But when I looked in the database, nothing was listed there. One of those from when I was a kid that I am slowly buying back, The Adventures of Captain Jack. This and Fish Police are the 2 comics that I'm slowly but surely buying back, and I have a feeling that Captain Carrot and Ambush Bug might make their way to that list eventually. Hearing the Kayfabe guys talking about Ambush Bug when they showed off, I think it was Jim showed off the Christmas issue that he had picked up in a 25-cent bin, just reminded me how much I loved that entire series. I had all of those issues and eventually gave them away or traded them off or whatever I did. So Captain Jack, I'm looking forward to digging into this one. A very kind of minimal illustrative style, not a lot of dense backgrounds, really clean looking. Again, just a comic I remember loving when I was growing up, when I was picking these up. And I only had a few issues of them at the time. So this is giving me a chance to pick up more. I've got a good half dozen of these at this point. Yeah, it's always one of, yeah, there you go. It's always one of those things, like seeing these kind of anthropomorphic, wow, that's a tough word to say, characters naked. It's always a weird kind of thing. Some Renegade Comics. Yes, that must be where Total Recall got it from. The Good Girls comic. A few Renegade Comics titles. Gene Day's Black Zeppelin, number 2 and 3. I think this went to 6 issues or something like that. Really, really great covers. I love this cover quite a bit. Look at the interiors there. Just collections of short stories. This one looked pretty great. Howard Cruz, Barefoot, the Comics book stories. So I guess a collection of stories that appeared in the Marvel/Kitchen Sink comics book series. So that's pretty amazing. I've always loved Howard Cruz's style with these characters specifically. So I'm looking forward to reading this. I haven't read much of his stuff. Another one from Renegade, again, picked up just because it's Renegade, and it's a company I don't come across a lot of their stuff. This is Charles A. Wagner's Cecil Kunkel from 1985. I think there was 3 issues from Renegade, and then a couple of issues from another company to start it all off. Really, really cartoony looking stuff. But like I said, worth it because Renegade doesn't pop up on my radar all that often. And then this one really took me by surprise. This looks like a lot of fun. Scott Shaw's Urban Guerrilla and Don Doherty's Blast. It's Amusing Stories #1. It's weird to see the image the right way around for me. I hope it's the right way around for you. It's not backwards somehow being presented backwards. But this one looks like a lot of fun. I knew Gene Day was prolific in the Canadian indie comic scene, and those stories should get more publicity. I love Gene Day when he was doing Masters of Kung Fu. Yeah, and it's exactly that. There we go. There's Scott Shaw. Really fantastic style. It's exactly that makes me want to dig into some of those Master Kung Fu's, maybe pick up a collection, because I hear really great things, Sleepy Reader, etc. A bunch of people have mentioned. This is right from the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. I have kind of a running list going when I'm watching their videos. I just keep adding to the list of titles that they show off that I've never heard of that strike a chord with me, and this was one of them. I'm a big fan of the Humans. So I got the 4-issue miniseries Ape City from, what is this? Is this an Aircell? Adventure Comics, not Aircell. So issue #1, #2, #3. That's such a Humans cover right there. I'm sure they swiped that for a pose from for their book. And then #4 looks ridiculous. Should be fun. Chimps on Choppers. Violence. What more do you need? Yeah, it looks totally ridiculous. Love it. So great. I have the collection of this, and I have one of the single issues. But again, when it's in a pack, how the hell can you say no? It's Brat Pack. You got a kayfabe list too. Yeah, I imagine you do, Jackie. I've seen you in some of the chats there. It's a great thing. Some of the stuff they show off is incredible. And it never ceases to amaze me out of all the comics that you end up seeing. They have a hell of a couple of shops in and around Pittsburgh that are just jam-packed with 80s black and white indie stuff. Incredibly jealous. So the Brat Pack, fantastic story. I've read it a couple of times. Like I said, I have it in the collection, but like the collected trade paperback kind of format, but I can't resist the single issues because these covers are just fucking ridiculous. There's issue #1, issue #2, issue #3. And I can't imagine anybody who's watching my channel that haven't read this. But if you haven't, no worries, no criticism. Just get out there and read it. You will not be disappointed. It's an absolute, oh, there's #1 again. It's an absolutely ridiculously fun ride. Just show you the back covers too. Live fast, love hard, die with your mask on. Unbelievable. Kind of a story revolving around the sidekicks to superheroes, but also how that kind of intersected with comics fandom at that time, especially with everybody reading the Batman comic, getting to decide the fate of the Robin at the time. I can't remember which Robin it was, but there you go. And then finally, really excited for this. The 3 issues, it says 3 of 3, but I'm wondering if on the database there was a couple of other issues. Richard Corbin's Children of Fire from Fantagor Press. I got to give you a good look. This is one of my favorite Corbin covers of all times. I love this cover. So this is a double for me. Again, one of those, it was in a pack of 3, even though I had issue 1. Couldn't let the pack go away. But look at just the water alone in that image is just fantastic. Absolutely love this cover. Have a quick look through. And then it's always great to see at the time prints and paintings and art that he was selling. He's just showing them off on Twitter, and Damien was talking about how it's a shame that a lot of this stuff, a lot of Corbin stuff, hasn't been collected really, and it surprises me, and it also just makes me think of how long the guy has been around and how much, like, the size of his output across those years. It feels like he's a guy that it's incredible the amount of work he's put out there. There's still stuff that I see every once in a while that I've never heard of before. Again, on the Kayfabe channel, they were showing, I can't remember what it was, a couple of other things he did for Marvel. I know he did the Cage miniseries because I've got that one, but there was a couple of other things that he did that I was unaware of for Marvel. And it's incredible to me that after all of this time, there's still stuff out there to be discovered. Here's issue number 2. And then issue number 3. I'm not sure how much Fantagor put out, but I've got a good chunk of it at this point. And an ad for Den on the back. And I'm wondering if, did he do Son of Den too? Was that a Fantagor as well? And there's another ad. And I think I've talked about it. Instantly recognizable is right. Yeah, absolutely. His coloring, everything about his images, they're instantly recognizable. You cannot mistake them for somebody else. The other good thing about these that I've maybe mentioned in the past is the kind of letters, pages, and his editorials in the beginning, because he talks about some of his techniques. And yeah, so for example, this one, a tedious end to tedious coloring. Talks about some of the challenges. I think specific to the Fantagor line, he talks a lot about changing the way that he does colors, because now from what I understand, he's always had access to a printer. So when he does these experiments, he can print off some stuff to see how what the final product is going to look like. And I think during this time of Fantagor, he was experimenting with different techniques for coloring. That would be an unfucking believable documentary on Corbin and his life and just everything that he's done, even in the world of, I think he was creating some stop motion animation stuff, just everything. Oh, nice. Paulo, you got your Cage miniseries autographed by the colorist. That's amazing. Corbin did a Star the Slayer revival. That would be a hell of a documentary, though, just kind of sitting and talking to him. Yeah, that's it. It feels weird sitting in front of the camera. I gotta say, I feel like I stumbled through this video a little bit. I wasn't quite prepared. It's just I've been thinking about YouTube lately and how I kind of miss it. I haven't really been contributing that much lately. I haven't been buying a ton of stuff lately. I've been reading things here and there, not as much as as we've spoken about before. There's always the ebbs and flows of reading comics. Hopefully I'm getting into a zone now where I'm going to read a bunch of these again, like kind of get back into it. We moved offices recently, so that's taken up some time. My wife is back at work, so that takes up time, just me and Lillian hanging out, which is all good things. And honestly, I feel like at sometimes I've really just hit the limit here in the city with digging through the boxes. There's just not a ton. My interests lie elsewhere with some of these comics. And, again, as I said before, when I first discovered the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel, there's not much point in doing videos anymore. Those guys have this shit covered. It's an amazing, amazing thing to watch those guys grow and just the things that they talk about. Yeah, that's it. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Jackie Paulo Costa, Laser Duchamp. Who else am I forgetting? I feel like I'm forgetting. Mass Panther, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Nice to see you as always. Paulo, it was nice to see a video from you. I started watching the other night and then just didn't have time to finish it off. It's in my queue to finish off, but really, really great to see you doing videos again. It was nice. It just reminded me of the times we were hanging out and doing those chats about Swamp Thing with G, which would be great to kind of continue with something like that again. It's also been a conversation with me and Damien briefly as well, talk of maybe doing another hangout. I know LaRasa and myself do hangouts every once in a while too. I think that might be something that would be worth exploring again. I'm feeling the need to kind of, you know, might be fun to do a video with people where we all just chat. But yeah, I'm definitely going to dig into the rest of your video, Paulo, because that exhibit that you went to, or that, I guess, art exhibit, I guess is the right word, that you went to, and then talking about the things that you picked up was really interesting. I just didn't get through the whole thing yet. Right on, everybody. Oh, that's fine by me though, Paulo. Mostly been buying European comics is great. I mean, I've told you many times before probably that how envious I am watching videos from you, talking to guys like you, talking to guys like Earl Grey, and just seeing all this stuff that has not had English translation just kills me, because there's so much fantastic work that I would love to get my hands on, but there's just not an English translation. Yeah, so right on, guys. Thanks very much. Let's end it here. Later.